to get started, folks.
Washington's 106.7 WJFK. Here starts Ron and Fez.
Okay, good. You're in for that, right?
Ron and Fez.
OJ's fat daughter calls 911. I better make an emergency Fezitorial. Well. 911 has gotten yet another call from the Simpsons. This time, it's OJ's teenage plus-size daughter, Sydney, calling during an argument with her homicidal Hall of Fame father. And I haven't seen people this upset about someone calling for help since the time my special needs neighbor, Hello Patty, was screaming because she thought her apartment was flooding. Turns out, she simply forgot she was in the tub taking a bath. But what really slits my throat and kills my waiter friend is the fact that a fat girl calls 911 and people are acting like it was just an argument and no big deal. Well, let me just say, Sydney Simpson, who was named after the city she most resembles in size, did the right thing. It doesn't matter if she was in danger or not. Actually, the only thing in danger was the chair she was sitting on. Her father was angry, and what happens when Daddy gets mad, Sydney? That's right. People get their heads cut off. Now, I know the 911 emergency number should not be abused. Of course, this kid probably calls 911 when she's out of Chips Ahoy. But we're talking about O.J. Simpson here. And Sydney, you should not hesitate to call people for help. Psycho said if you and your father's arguments are getting out of hand, call for help. Being that upset, I'm surprised she called 911 and not Papa John's Pizza. And you shouldn't wait till things are bad to get help. If you see Daddy with a knife cutting a sandwich, get help. Although if he's got the sandwich in front of her, OJ's probably the one in danger. If Daddy's talking mean to a waiter, get help. They're probably arguing about Cindy violating the spirit of the all-you-can-eat policy. If Uncle Cato shows up needing a place to stay, get help. Although you can probably sleep comfortably in your lunchbox. If you see Daddy putting on gloves, get help. Most likely he's putting them on at dinner time to keep his fingers from getting bit when he reaches for the fries. If you notice, Daddy is watching a lot of episodes of Homicide, Murder, She Wrote, or Beretta, get help. Like he could see the TV with that kid's fat ass in the way. Or if Daddy starts calling your Barbie dolls Nicole, get help. Although I don't think Sydney has toys. Instead of a teddy bear, she sleeps with a hoagie. Poor little girl. That f***ing idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where in an emergency we called 711, thinking that if we could just get a hold of the 7-Eleven, a big gulp and a moon pie would solve everything. But it was there that I learned how fascinated people were with O.J. Simpson. I remember Mother discussing him out in our barn with our handyman and local waiter killer named Boo-Boo. They'd sneak out there on Sundays and cheer for O.J., although Bobo wasn't much of a football fan. He'd even mix up O.J.'s name. Sometimes he'd be screaming B.J. at Mother instead of O.J. And I swear he was dyslexic, because other times instead of O.J., he was just interested in being J.O.'d. And then... Wait a minute. Mama touched it. Dirty Mama. Dirty Mama. Anywho, we may not know exactly what caused O.J. Simpson's daughter to call 911, but we do have some answers. We now know that O.J. is still making the women in his life miserable. We now know that there's still plenty of fighting going on in the Simpson family. And we now know what Rikishi would look like as a 17-year-old girl. So just know this, O.J., that the next phone call may be from us, and it may be us calling you to tell you that we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you. Mike Tyson tattoos his face. Maybe I should needle him with a Fezitorial. Well. In preparation for his upcoming fight, Iron Mike Tyson has marked up his face with a tribal warrior tattoo. And I haven't seen people this upset about someone decorating their mug since that time in Cub Scouts, when our den mother, Mr. Jenkins, did some face painting with us. The problem was, he didn't use paint, although it was glossy and peeled right off after it dried. But what really inks my kisser is the fact that not only does Mike Tyson now look like the Ultimate Warrior's dumber cousin, he feels he needs these gimmicks to intimidate his opponent. And it looks like this is only the beginning. What's next, Mike Tyson? You've already taken a spirograph to your own face, so what's your next move? Screwing devil horns in your head? It would look scary, but then you'd have to cut holes in your headgear when you're sparring. Hey, here's a frightening look you could try, Mike. How about popping out one of your good eyes and putting in one of those Terminator red light bulb eyes? Talk about intimidating. Everyone's scared of the Terminator. In fact, you could even go one better and replace your eye with one of those laser pointers that were all the rage. That way, you could scare your opponent and aim exactly where you want to punch him at the same time. What if you got a plastic surgeon to put in one of those Joker smiles? Wait till they get a load of this boxer. That would be pretty sinister. Although Ruth Buzzy has one, and no one really seems to be scared of her. But you know what is scary, Mike Tyson? Snakes. Snakes are damn scary. How about going for a whole Medusa look and getting snake hair? Would you like snake hair, Mike? Or what about some sort of hook hand? It worked for Aquaman when he wanted to look tougher, and after the match, you could cut off your own gloves. Let's see, something intimidating. We could always weld a Darth Vader mask to your skull. Or better yet, what if we just gave you a shark head? Actually replace your own melon with a shark's. Talk about scary. Who's not afraid of a shark? Besides, you're already biting people anyway. Shark head may be the way to go, but just remember to have a lot of extra water bottles in your corner. Or if all this seems way too much or too complex, Iron Mike, we could always just go with more tattoos. Like simply tattooing across your forehead the words, idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where we had one guy who did both tattoos and embroidery. That is until the day he got the orders mixed up and got ink on my father's new T-shirt and sewed in the words, #1 Dad on his chest. We ended up spending the rest of Father's birthday pulling red thread out of his man-teats. But it was there that I learned how seriously fighters take their boxing. I remember Mother diligently training for a career in boxing out in the barn with our handyman and local trainer named Boo-Boo. Mother was really working out in order to drop enough pounds to join the women's super heavyweight division. And Boo-Boo was not only her trainer, but also her cut man. And he had his hands full. Several times I overheard him out in the barn telling Mother what a big cut she had, how it was a real nasty-looking cut, and how sometimes he didn't even want to go near her huge, gaping cut. But, you know, now that I remember, I don't think he said cut. I think he said, wait a minute. That wasn't Mama's boo-boo. That was her hoo-hoo. Anywho, Iron Mike Tyson, I know you're looking for any edge to get back on top of the fight game. And if you think the way to do that is to look scarier, more power to you. Right now, with that much eye makeup on, you almost look like Christina Aguilera. And I can't think of anything scarier than that. So congrats, big man. You pulled it off. But listen, Etch-a-Sketch Face, your real fans will always support you whether you disfigure yourself or not. And we'll be rooting for you on Saturday night, and you'll hear us cheering that we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you. Where's Ronnie? Ronnie was going to hear the Friday Night Fezitorial. Is he out with Swiss Miss in the green room?
Yeah.
Ronnie, you missed it.
Missed what?
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed captured. Should we torture him for information? I say we hold him down and give him a Fezitorial. Well. Ever since the capture of Al-Qaeda terrorist Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, questions have come up about how much force we should use on Sheikh Chubsy Ubsy. And I haven't seen people this excited about torturing a fat guy since the time we hid Billy Staples' Xanax in a place we knew he'd never look. Right next to the toothpaste. But what really searches my mountainous region is the fact that people assume that we have to work over Alibaba to get any info. And what happens when we assume? That's right, a fat terrorist gets his ass beat. Besides, if we really wanted to physically torture this terrorist version of Mr. Spacely, we'd just send him for a body waxing. Seriously, the guy's so hairy, he could have laid down on the floor, and we would have walked right past him thinking they had shag carpet. Or we could just come at him with a stick of deodorant. I'm sure he's never seen one, and would probably think right guard is some new weapon of mass destruction. But my point is, Khalid Milkshake Mohammed can still be tortured without us being accused of physical abuse. Tell this fat ass he's going to bed without his supper, and he'll be singing like the world's chubbiest canary. Or just dangle a Twix bar in front of him, and he'll be giving up info before you can say, delicious cookie crunch. It's the mental torture we want to focus on with Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Sit in front of him making a cake and mixing the frosting, then refuse to let him lick the bowl. He'll go out of his terrorist mind. But if our CIA officials are intent on physical torture, there's ways to disguise it. Pass it off as exercise. Hand cholesterol Sheikh Mohammed a thigh master and tell him to get busy. And when the cramps set in, he'll be getting Charlie camels so bad, he'll beg to talk. Take him to a gym and insist on him doing the rope climb. That rope strikes terror in the heart of fat kids everywhere. Or give Sheik Slim Fast a change of clothes and hand him a pair of those tight bicycle shorts. Talk about torture. Make him sit for interrogations in one of those coffee shop or diner booths. Fat people hate those damn things. Or perhaps the way to go with the torture is the humiliation route. Send Khalid Shamu Mohammed to the beach and make him walk around with his shirt off. He'll be crying for a towel the whole time he's leading you to Bin Laden. Or simply mentally torment him with fat jokes. My personal suggestions would include Fatty Fatty 2x4, too fat to start a holy war, or Hey Khalid, why don't you change what you're wearing and slip into something more comfortable, like Afghanistan. Or there's always the old snaps. Khalid, you're so fat when you step on a rainbow, you make Skittles. The classics always work best. Fat idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Ellisburg, Florida, where we had a special word for torture. We called it math. But it was there that I learned how important resisting torture was to people. I remember Mother training out in our barn with our handyman and local interrogation expert named Boo Boo. He was teaching her how not to give up information in case she was ever captured. And unless it was the San Diego Zoo, I don't know exactly who she was worried about getting her. But a lot of times, I would hear him telling her to start opening her mouth. Then, when she did have something she wanted to spit out, he would tell her not to. It was very confusing, because whatever she had, he told her to swallow it. And with all the gagging, she must have... Wait a minute.
Mama's lips were sealed, but with devil juice.
Anywho, trust me, I'm all in favor of torturing this fat-ass Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. I would love to see his lord-ass drag through the city streets like he was a fatter, hairier Mussolini, if that's possible. But what's nice to know is that we don't even need the threat to make him squeal. Just start frying some bacon in the other room, and the smell alone will drive him nuts. I know, he's Islamic. He doesn't eat bacon. Right. Take a look at this camel clown and tell me he hasn't enjoyed a pork chop or two. He puts the ham in Sheikh Mohammed. And soon, the rest of Al-Qaeda will hear us closing in on them, and the voice they'll hear is us saying, we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you.
Where'd Roddy go? He missed the Friday Fezitorial. Roddy? You were out of the room, you missed the Fezitorial.
Well, won't you play it 6 more times in the next 3 days?
No, I won't. It may replay tonight if people are lucky, and then again on Monday. The Oscars get toned down for war, and the winner is... Fezitorial. Well. Due to the war going on in Iraq, the Academy Awards have decided to have a more serious ceremony this year. And I haven't been this unhappy about an award show since '68, when Avenel Harmon beat me out for Little Miss Orange Blossom. They never did find Avenel's body that summer. I suppose they never will. But what really tears open my love envelope is the fact that here is an opportunity for these celebs to lift our spirits when all they want to do is make everything even more somber. This year, there's no Barbara Walters special. So how can we laugh when we don't get to watch grandma journalism make Renee Zellweger cry? Fortunately, we'll still get Joan and Melissa Rivers. However, they'll be off the red carpet and set up in a hotel across the street. And I'm sure it's not the first time these two have sat in a lonely hotel lobby looking for someone to talk to. But these are tough times, and we can all benefit from seeing an old lady and her talking donkey act on television. On stage, there's going to be a serious tone. Well, that makes sense. After all, we are honoring films like Lord of the Rings 2. I'd hate for people at home dressed like hobbits thinking this wasn't being done with some class. The key word, though, is serious. And why wouldn't it be? Queen Latifah's nominated. I believe for that TV show she did on Fox with Tootie from Facts of Life. And, of course, there's Academy Award nominee Eminem, who, in consideration of the war, will be performing with a real Slim Sodom, Please Stand Up, Please Stand Up. Actually, these Oscars have no choice but to be serious, especially with nominees like Vegas funny man Daniel Day-Lewis, Choke Machine Ed Harris, and that really skinny guy who got nominated for The Pianist and looks a lot like a really young Katie Lang. In fact, the only way these Oscars could be livened up is if Roman Polanski shows up and brings a date. Now, the wardrobe will be toned down as well. That's fine, just as long as Big Kathy Bates wears more than she did in that hot tub scene in About Schmidt. Also, some celebs will be wearing peace doves, which is appropriate and fine. However, this year, dressing like a giant swan probably isn't. I don't want to mention any names. Bjork. And there's word that some nominees will actually be wearing small pieces of duct tape. Funny enough. But if we're going to tape something, how about the winners' mouths in some of the lesser categories? This is going to be depressing enough. I don't need the best animated documentary short feature winner taking an hour to thank the beautiful people of Cameroon who inspired him, then wants a shot of his noticeably manly wife crying as he kisses his adopted Siamese twin daughters goodnight from the stage. Best animated documentary short feature, f***ing idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where if you left it to the locals, Deliverance would have won Best Picture 31 times in a row. But it was there that I learned how much people really love movies. I remember Mother having her own film awards show out in our barn with our handyman and local movie director named Boo Boo. And apparently, Mother won top honors that year because I heard Boo Boo saying he was giving her a golden award and that she really deserved it. But she still must have been nervous about winning because she left that barn dripping wet and smelled a little salty, too, which was probably from the popcorn cut. Wait a minute. He showered Mama with compliments. The compliments from his pants. Anywho, Academy Awards, of course, be respectful. But also, remember, you're only movies. Don't take yourself so seriously. It's not like you're the Grammys or the Blockbuster Video Awards. Look at your nominees. Lilo and Stitch aren't going to make us forget there's a war on, okay? Enjoy your evening. And just remember to include in all your acceptance speeches the fact that we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you.
Where did Ronnie go? He missed the Friday Night Fezitorial. Ronnie.
Yeah.
You never listen to the Fezitorials. I thought you were going to check this one out.
I'm boycotting it.
Why are you boycotting the Fezitorial?
Aren't you one of the Dixie Chicks?
No, I am not a Dixie chick.
Are you sure?
I am from Dixie.
But I'm not a chick.
Well, then I'll listen to the next one.
On My Birthday by Fez Marie Watley. On my birthday, as I began yet another year-long journey around a bright yellow star I call the sun, I wonder, where is my generation's place in the history, in the plan, in the grand scheme of the cosmos? And as I enter my 20-somethings, yikes, I can't even believe how that sounds out loud, I wonder, where do I fit in here on Spaceship Earth? For I live in a different world than the one my parents knew and their parents before them. When I was born, televisions already had cable, the ozone layer already had a hole, and Phil Collins already had a solo career. I'm sorry, older stranger person, but because of my age, I don't know about your Vietnam, your Watergate, your Iranian hostage crisis. I celebrated the bicentennial with millions of other sperm cells. For me, the world of the older generation consists of some cracked-yellowed photographs in a dusty picture book. I never knew Elvis, John Lennon, or Freddie Prinze Sr. I've only known a burned Richard Pryor, a white Michael Jackson, and a fat and bald Rob Reiner. Your world of Skylab, 3 Mile Island, and disco is as foreign to me as the days of ancient Rome. But don't resent me for not knowing. Teach me. Teach me, for how can I fully appreciate your caveman days without computers when I was born in the internet age, in a taxi cab traveling down the information superhighway? I want to know of your legends, because in sports, I never saw Namath, Sawbuck, and Bradshaw play. I grew up only knowing the names Favre, Manning, and Greasy. Brian Greasy, that is. To me, classic television isn't The Honeymooners, I Love Lucy, and Father Knows Best. It's Growing Pains, Night Court, and a funny little show called Kate and Allie. You must remember that my generation and I were raised on a heavy diet of boy bands and Britney Spears. You had Davy Jones. I know a girl named Nora with the same last name. You listen to the Beatles' Penny Lane. I'm checking out 50 Cent. Chalk it up to inflation, I guess. And I'll tell you about Missy Elliott if you tell me about Mama Cass Elliott. They both seem to really enjoy ham sandwiches, if that's some common ground. Yes, at my young age, I've had the advantage of camera phones, bottled waters, and games we play on our TVs, not on a sheet of cardboard laid across the table or floor. But I want to know of this far-off land called the past and learn about it and use that knowledge for the future. So tell me of those days when you had to dial a phone, fill ice trays in order to have cool drinks, and when movies only cost $7. Because I will listen. I will listen to stories about a funny man named John Belushi, about a master puppeteer named Jim Henson, and about a girl who wouldn't eat named Karen Carpenter. I will listen and I will learn. So give me the greatest advantage someone of my generation could possibly have. A generation that knows Tony Soprano, not Tony Bennett, that knows SpongeBob, not Buffalo Bob, and that only knows Al-Qaeda, not Al Franken. Give us the advantage of your knowledge and your experience. That's what I want on my birthday. Where did Ronnie go? That was my birthday Fezitorial.
I'm sorry, Fez. I didn't want to listen to a bag of lies from an old lady.
A birthday wish for little Lynnae by Fez Marie Watley. What do I wish for Lynnae on her birthday? I wish for her a world without war, without disease, without Justin Timberlake. A world where the only people starving are anorexic supermodels. A world where the only thing getting blown up is Daddy's inflatable friend, Aunt Betty. And a world where the only kids that get beat are the ones racing in the Special Olympics. What I wish for Lynnae is for the good Lord to grant her parents wisdom, so that her father has enough sense to stop coming to the dinner table nude, or insisting on helping her brownie troop earn a good citizenship badge by helping him wax his backside. And I wish for her mother the knowledge of when to stop with the eye makeup, so that Lynnae doesn't repeat her mistakes and grow up to look like a blonde lily monster. Blonde? Yeah, right. Blonde from a bottle. I wish that Lynnae could grow up in a country where the natural resources of this good earth are respected and appreciated. In a country where gasoline is 20 cents a gallon, thanks to our new 51st state, Iraq. A place to live in where all creatures are cared for, and where you can see bigger-than-life animals roaming along the way God intended us to, in an IMAX theater. I wish for Lynnae clean air, clean water, and a clean and sober Whitney Houston. I also have wishes for little Lynnae's future. I wish for that special man to come along who will one day take her as his bride and love her and cherish her the way her father does, except with less open-mouth kissing. For Lynnae's future, I wish for a chance for her to find her own way in this world, to carve out her own path and fulfill her own dreams, not the ones of her own crazy stage mother, who insists on Lynnae having voice lessons every day, along with 6 hours of gymnastics, so that she can become the first Olympic champion to win American Idol, thusly realizing her own mother's failed ambitions. Ambitions taken away by age and bitterness. And I have hopes and wishes for the world Lynnae will grow up in. I wish for leaders in this country that she can respect and admire. Not one that uses the people's house for his own private Tijuana where he can poke fat girls with cigars. And certainly not one that right now is at Lynnae's current reading level. I hope that Lynnae can grow up in a place where people can still worship any God they choose, as long as that God has a kid named Jesus. I wish for Lynnae to live in a world where impossible dreams can come true, where we can walk on Mars, where we can cure all sickness, and where the Redskins can get back to the Super Bowl. Listen to me, talking crazy. And Lynnae, I wish your generation better luck with the problems created by previous ones. I hope you can find a way to make sure that no one is homeless. Of course, in order to do this, Lynnae, you'll probably have to take in your own Uncle Billy Staples off the street. because Uncle Billy likes to drink too much silly juice, the kind that's for grown-ups. So, sweet child, one day when he staggers up to you at nearly 400 pounds from having sold his own stomach staples for half a Xanax, don't turn away. Take him in. But know, Lynnae, that we left you with some good things, too. Like tiny boxes of juice, bobblehead figurines, and computer porn. Your world is the future, Lynnae. Enjoy all the things we only read about. Jetpacks, working cell phones, and communicating with the dead. Lucky girl, it's all ahead of you, Lynnae. But most of all, sweetheart, I wish you happiness. Happiness that comes from fulfillment in career and family. Happiness that comes from knowing you made a difference in the lives of others. And the happiness that will come from the satisfaction of finally putting those two hippie freaks that raised you away in a nursing home and throwing out the key. That's my birthday wish for you, little Lynnae. Where's Ron and Lynnae? They missed the Fezitorial. Ron and Lynnae missed it. For my meat man, Dr. Atkins, a Fezitorial memorial. Well. Diet guru Dr. Robert Atkins has gone to that big steakhouse in the sky. And I haven't been this upset about losing a guy who loves the meat since we lost Liberace. That guy really loved tickling the ivory. And he wasn't a bad piano player either. But what really grills my fur burger is the fact that Dr. Atkins, with his meat and fat diet, was always surrounded in controversy instead of getting the thanks he deserves. So thank you, meat man. Thank you for letting us know that fat is not an enemy, but just the opposite, a friend. A greasy, delicious friend that you can invite into your home and then eat. In this world, you don't get to eat a lot of your friends. Let's be thankful for the ones you can. Thank you, Meat Man, for making me feel good about myself. So many mornings I would wake up from a cheese-induced stupor. Empty cans of Cheese Whiz all around me, the bed covered in the plastic wrappers of 100 Kraft singles, and a large chunk of Monterey Pepper Jack hanging out of my mouth. And thanks to you, Dr. Atkins, I knew I had done the right thing. You took away the guilt of eating the Parmesan right out of the green can. Thank you. If only you had developed an all Kit Kat bar and Oreo diet. That was probably the only thing keeping me from giving you God status and turning my back on Christianity completely. Thank you, Meat Man, for reminding us that breakfast is the most important meal of the day. I used to dread mornings, but those 12-egg omelets and 5 pounds of bacon really turned that attitude around. Thank you, Meat Man, for a diet that treats us like humans, not rabbits. And for a diet where you could actually eat rabbits as part of some weird revenge. Thank you for recognizing the goodness in ham. I thought I was the only one that could see it. I started to think I was crazy. Crazy for ham. And thank you, Meat Man, for sticking to your guns, for not backing down from what you believed in. When people said your diet causes kidney damage, you said, hey, you want bacon on that? When critics claimed that your plan led to heart disease, you said, how about some more cheddar? And when the naysayers of the world claimed your nutritional approach caused osteoporosis, you said, that's nothing to get all bent out of shape about. Let's have some jerky. Thank you, Meat Man, because when they told you you were endangering people's health, you told them, like a gentleman, I politely disagree. You fat idiots. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where the average woman's weight is equal to that of the average European sports car, prompting the city council to suggest a city name change to Pinellas Pork, Florida. They were one vote shy. If only Councilwoman Big Pat Bailey hadn't stopped for a Dairy Queen blizzard that day and missed the vote, things could have been quite different. But it was there that I learned how much people really love meat. I remember Mother going out to the barn with our handyman and local butcher named Boo Boo. She wanted to look at his selection and check out his beef and, you know, this one is just so obvious. Let's just skip to, wait a minute. Mama ate the bad sausage. Bad mama. Anywho, Dr. Atkins, you will be missed. I just find it ironic that your last trip was in the meat wagon. But thank you, Meat Man, for giving us ribs instead of rice, gristle instead of grapefruit, and cattle instead of carrots. And every time I push back another empty plate of pork chop bones, I will think of you and smile with plenty of meat caught between my teeth. Mr. Meatman, and hopefully you'll hear my farewell over the sound of my gnawing on a steak when I say, we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial Memorial. Thank you.
Where'd Ronnie go? He missed the Fezitorial Memorial. Ronnie.
What?
You missed the Friday night Fezitorial, and this one was a Fezitorial Memorial.
I'm a Catholic, Fezzy, not on Fridays, my friend.
This one was all about meat. It was about Dr. Atkins, the late Dr. Atkins.
Don't worry, he'll be here.
Sinead O'Connor is retiring. Here's to you, Baldy. A Fezitorial farewell. Well. Controversial Irish singer Sinead O'Connor is quitting the music biz. And I haven't been this excited to see an Irish person quit since the time I was having a few too many with the late, great Tip O'Neill. And he finally decided to go to bed after what later became known as the Boston Tea Bag Party. But what really shaves my little head is the fact that Sinead O'Connor feels she has to make a huge announcement to say she doesn't want to be famous anymore. I'm sorry, Kojak. Wasn't that announcement made in 1992? Honey, if you don't want to be famous anymore, good news. Mission accomplished, pinhead. But now I'm left wondering, gee, who's going to take Sinead O'Connor's place in the world? Who's going to fill that void? Who's going to be that annoying bald foreigner we all can't stand? I guess the nation will have to turn to Patrick Stewart now. Who's going to boycott Saturday Night Live the next time Andrew Dice Clay is the host? My guess is we're going to have plenty of time to work on that one. Who's going to sit around now moaning and boring us all about their traumatic childhood? Is there any chance we could get Louis Anderson to shave his head and just pretend he's a fat Sinead? Speaking of hair, who's going to be the bald chick we all make fun of now? I guess we'll just go with Star Jones. Talk about getting wiggy with it. And don't you laugh, Barbara Walters. Your hair's so thin, the phone company could use it for fiber optics. Baba wah wah. But I want to know who's going to upset the Catholics now? Thank goodness we still have the president and Bob Jones University. And I want to know who's going to be there for Chris Christopherson to hug when they get booed off stage. Maybe it's time to hug yourself, Chris. But I have other questions too, Sinead. Like, why retire from show business now when you did such a good job as Bullseye in the Daredevil movie? Oh, wait, that was Colin Farrell, wasn't it? But nonetheless, why retire? Critics say you paved the way for women like Liz Phair, Courtney Love, and Alanis Morissette. Sinead, you're responsible for each and every one of them. And when I think about that, I wonder, why are we bombing Iraq and not you? Well, Q-Ball O'Connor, I don't know what you're going to do with the rest of your life. I mean, there's only so many pictures of the Pope you could still tear up. And then what? But I do know this. I just hope that if somehow you do get into heaven, that Mr. Frank Sinatra himself is waiting there for you at the pearly gate with a cocktail in one hand and a pair of brass knucks in the other. You bald-headed f***ing idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where we had a name for people who went around tearing up pictures of the Pope. We called them Southerners. But it was there that I learned how attracted some people are to bald folks. I remember Mother going out to the barn with our handyman and local Irish solo artist named Bobo. Now, I only heard two people out there, but I did notice Mother saying how glad she was to see Bobo's bald little friend. Apparently, he had just popped up. She must have liked him, too, because she bent over for the guy, even when he spit on her and... Wait a minute.
Mama got it in both eyes from the one eye.
Anywho, Sinead O'Connor, nothing compares to you. Why? Because you stink. And that's from one surly bald man to another. Enjoy your retirement, Sinead. We have for the past 10 years. And if you ever get lonely and miss us and want to come back, remember, we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you.
Where did Ronnie go? This is the time when we play the Friday Fezitorial and he missed it again. Ronnie?
Yeah.
You missed the Friday Fezitorial, man. Again.
What was it on this time?
It was a Fezitorial farewell tonight to Sinead O'Connor.
Give me a calendar. I think somehow I've fallen into some kind of time vortex. Wow, you're cutting edge.
It's not the 1992 Sinead O'Connor I'm talking about. It's 2003 Sinead O'Connor. She's retiring from show business.
Are you still doing swing jokes? Is that all still happening?
No, I'm not doing anything from Wayne's World. Not.
We'll take a quick break. What's coming up next, Fez?
The Friday Fezitorial is next, Ronnie. I know you've been looking forward to it.
People magazine names its 50 most beautiful people. Well, here's a real beauty of a Fezitorial. Well. Once again, People magazine is telling us who's the fairest of them all. And I haven't been this excited over a magazine since I was a kid, when Father would read to us from the new Cosmo while he sat on the can. And if we were lucky and he was constipated, we got to take the relationship quiz, too. That was the afternoon where at the age of 8, I found out I was a selfish lover. But what really cancels my subscription is how superficial the choices are for People magazine's most beautiful. After all, who's going to argue that Halle Berry isn't gorgeous? Put Marion Barry on the list, and then we could have some serious debate. I say take a risk. People's choices this year are just too obvious. I mean, raise your hand if you wouldn't want to make a hunk sandwich with Hugh Jackman and Daniel Day-Lewis. Gee, more hands than I thought. But this list is just too easy. That's why I'd like to offer some alternatives to People's 50 Most Beautiful list and nominate some people who are beautiful, but on the inside. People like Jack Osborne, who on the outside comes across as a fat, obnoxious, bratty, foul-mouthed nerdlinger who looks and smells like he never learned how to wipe. Where, really, on the inside, he's just a sad little British boy, alcoholic and drug addict trying to get out. And who looks and smells like he never learned how to wipe. He has his mother's eyes and his father's addiction. And you know, if you look closely, you can see a lot of his dad's pills in him. Why didn't People magazine consider Brian Emmanuel Mitchell for their most beautiful list? Sure, on the outside he's a scruffy prophet/kidnapper who answers the question of, gee, what would Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top look like if he was a zombie? But on the inside, he's just another hopeless romantic with a pure and natural love for 14-year-old Mormon girls. Now I can see what his wife, Mrs. Elizabeth Smart Mitchell, sees in him. Most beautiful people on the inside? How about Baghdad Bob, the former Iraqi used car salesman turned information minister and chief lying weasel? On the outside, not much to look at. But on the inside, a man of pure poetry. Who else could say that God will roast the American stomachs in hell and still come off as friendly as an Iraqi game show host? Baghdad Bob once said, we're going to drag the drunken junkie nose of George Bush through the Iraqi desert. Wow. We may have another Dylan on our hands. Of course, there's also Scott Peterson. Now, don't let all the bleach blonde hair, nice teeth, and getaway money fool you. This is a man who last year remembered the true spirit of Christmas, giving. It was on Christmas Eve where he couldn't wait to give his wife, Lacey, a fishing trip she'd never forget, and also some beautiful jewelry, a couple of 90-pound cement necklaces to wear. Allegedly. It was Scott Peterson who taught us all something when he said, a bad day of fishing is still better than a good day of being married and raising a son. And if we're talking about beautiful people on the inside, what about rock star turned balding punchline Diamond David Lee Roth? Sure, it's gotten about as low as it can get when Sammy Hagar makes fun of you and when you're clinging to your youth and one last handful of hair. David Lee Roth was actually the first person to do the comb-over using his ear hair. But on the inside, the man is a hero. Diamond Dave cornered an intruder in his backyard with a shotgun and held it on him until police arrived. Of course, if David Lee was really so brave, he would have used that same shotgun to do a Kurt Cobain stage exit when the OU812 album came out. Ball-headed spandex-wearing loser, f***ing idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellasburg, Florida, where beauty pageants were canceled after 12 consecutive years of non-human winners. There's nothing worse than women crying as a sheep wearing a tiara walks past them. But it was there that I learned about inner beauty. I remember Mother looking for the beauty in all things, in nature, in music, in homemade bathtub gin, and even in the barn with our handyman and local beauty expert named Boo Boo. One time I overheard them when she said that Bobo even had a beauty in his pants, and she wished that all his good was inside her, really inside her, deep, deep, deep inside her. And wait a minute.
Mama wanted wood, not good.
Anywho, People Magazine, it's easy to pick 50 beautiful people for this year's list, like Salma Hayek, Jennifer Aniston, and Queen Latifah. Queen Latifah? Make that 49. But remember, you only have a few beautiful people when there are millions of uglies out there who are all ready to say, we're here, we're queer, we will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you. An open letter from Fez Marie Watley to his mother. Dear Mother, just wanted to take a few moments to thank you for all you've done for me. Thank you, Mother, for your little reminders, especially for reminding me constantly of how long and torturous my birth was for you, and how a back alley abortion would have been a lot simpler and a lot less painful. Thank you, Mother, for all the male role models you provided for me, especially when Father was out of town. Oh, one male role model after another came through our back door during the night. One child should never have been so blessed by having so many new uncles. And thanks so much, Mother, for providing balanced meals. Not a breakfast, lunch, or dinner went by without some form of chocolate. Again, my entire 5'4", nearly 350-pound frame thanks you. And thank you, Mother, for letting me know things were okay. Like telling me it was all right to go skinny dipping with the Scoutmaster, Mr. Higgins, who lived down the lane. You were right again, Mom. He showed me every inch of what it's like to be a man. Thank you for teaching me object lessons, like when you use that whiskey bottle to break that baby bird's neck to show me that flying really is not safe. Or playing the song Ode to Billy Joe by the legendary Bobby Gentry over and over again in order to develop in me a healthy respect and terrorizing fear of bridges. Thank you for teaching me about love, Mother, by sending me out into the yard with a bucket of cold water every time our beagles felt amorous. I still use things I learned from those beagles today. Thank you, Mother, for my social skills. My, how I learned to get along with the other boys who had cool lunch boxes like Star Wars, Dukes of Hazzard, or Sheriff Lobo, while I was provided a Barbara Mandrell and the Mandrell sisters lunchbox to carry my lunch in, a lunch that consisted of leftover hors d'oeuvres that you had swiped from a happy hour buffet the evening before. And finally, Mother, thank you so much, and most of all, for not coddling to any of my emotional needs, and not bogging me down with a lot of affection. So much so that now, any human touch literally feels like hot acid ripping through my skin. Thank you again, Mother, and goodbye. Annika Sorenstam is playing golf with the boys. First thing you need to do is address the Fezitorial. Hello, Fezitorial. Well. Annika Sorenstam has joined the men on the PGA Tour, and I haven't seen anyone this upset about the game of golf since the time Tim Conway sued me, claiming I stole his Dorf idea in my own set of videos called Dink on Golf. After reviewing the tape and seeing that it was just 12 hours of me partying in Tijuana with Supermax Lee Trevino and Chichi Rodriguez, the case was dropped. But what really gives me a hole-in-one, or is that the other way around, is the fact that in the year 2003, there are still walls of prejudice that have to come down. After all, it's just golf. Women play it every day. Why is this now such a surprise? Didn't anyone notice all the women out on the course before this? This is like being shocked that a woman has decided to take up teaching or cooking. It's like being in a library and suddenly asking, hey, where did all these books come from? It's like wondering why, after years in the Senate, does Joe Lieberman want to be president? All right, actually, that is a good question. But I think we should congratulate Annika Sorenstam for helping break down the color barrier in golf and being the first white woman to compete in the PGA since John Daly. Talk about one ugly broad. Or is this more than a whitey shouldn't play here issue? Maybe it goes deeper than a hate for white women. Maybe it's a prejudice against Swedish people altogether. And if that's the case, the people that didn't want Annika Sorenstam to compete are wrong. Because it's that same anti-Swede attitude that could have kept ABBA out of music, that could have kept Bjorn Borg out of tennis, and could have kept the Berserker out of the WWF. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm needing Sweden. Or maybe this is just a prejudice against hot blondes. Personally, I thought the Golden Bear Jack Nicklaus broke down that barrier years ago. But I'm sure the fans would rather look at golfers like supermodel David Duvall, the ample-ass Phil Mickelson, and bombshell Fuzzy Zeller than look at a beautiful Swedish woman walking the links. Seriously, we finally get a woman golfer that doesn't look like, well, for lack of a better term, a woman golfer, and everyone wants to chase her off. Golf fans should count their blessings. Usually these women look like Nathan Lane in culottes and golf shoes. And honestly, I don't think any of this controversy would have happened if golfer Vijay Singh hadn't opened up his mouth and said, I don't want to be beat by a woman. First of all, when I saw his picture in the paper, I thought it was J.J. Jackson from the old MTV days. But apparently, that was a different VJ. And secondly, I want to congratulate Vijay Singh because with all your whining and crying and pulling out of the tournament, you have become a bigger woman on this tour than Annika Sorenstam could have hoped to have been. Nice work, Fiji, an idiot. But you know, this whole thing reminds me of growing up in Pinellas Park, Florida, where the green is what we call the caddy's teeth. I'm sorry, tooth. But it was there that I learned how much women appreciate the game of golf. I remember Mother working on her skills out in the barn with our handyman and local golf pro named Boo Boo. Now, I don't know what kind of green Mother had set up out there, but I do know that Bobo was upset about the size of her hole. He couldn't believe how big it was, and he complained about how huge and gaping it was, too. He said he could get 2 balls in there, not to mention his entire wood, and... Wait a minute.
He had to put it in Mama's back 9.
Anywho, Annika Sorenstam, you golf girl, and don't let anyone's petty bigotry stop you. The people that are against you, they're probably just prejudiced against the name Annika, just because that's the same name of the kid who grows up to be Darth Vader. This is worse than prejudice. This is Sith prejudice, and it's not right. So do your best, and you'll hear us very quietly from the gallery telling you that we're here. We're queer. We will not disappear. This has been my Fezitorial. Thank you.
Where did Ronnie and Tenacious C go? They missed the Friday Fezitorial. Ronnie, I thought you were going to check out the Fezitorial.
What was it on this week, Fez?
It was
what brought back a bad childhood memory about your mother getting hammered this week?
Annika Sorenstam did.
Oh.
Howard Stern, Don and Mike, Bill O'Reilly, Ron and Fez and the Washington Redskins, 106.7 WJFK.